Good afternoon, students. Myself, Sanat Kumar Swain, Assistant Professor at Vedang Institute of Technology. So, in today's class, we'll be discussing about the various kinds of concept of perception and its meaning, its definition. What do we mean by perception, and how that is incorporated in the uh, in the realms of corporate world. Okay. So, we'll be going through few slides and we'll discuss about perception. Yeah. So, in the introduction slide, what do we mean by perception? In the general term, when we think about perception, what comes into our mind? What we perceive. Okay. What is, let's say, in any kind of situation or any kind of place or circumstances, environment, when we are meeting new people, when we are meeting a new environment, a new situation arises, we tend to perceive something. Okay. So from perceive comes the perception. Okay. So how do we perceive the situation? How do we perceive the person? Okay. How do we perceive the um, surroundings? Okay. Or you can say workplace. Okay. So this all contributes to our perception. That may be a positive perception, that may be a negative perception. Okay. So particularly in the organizational behavior. Okay. So perception is in organizational behavior refers to how individuals, okay, the employee or an individual, they perceive the information from the surrounding or from their environment. Okay. So sometimes we understand that if we are seeing something or if we are hearing something, then only we perceive something. It's nothing like that. Sometimes what happens is that apart from seeing and hearing also, there is other sort of perceptions which we take into consideration. Okay. So the concept of perception is crucial. Why it is important in the organizational behavior, particularly because the way we perceive, okay, if an individual is perceiving, okay, and the way we are perceiving, okay, that impacts our work style, okay, the way we work and how we understand the situation, how better we can cope up with the situation if we are perceiving the problems or the situation in a much better way. So it is very much important, it is very utmost importance, okay, to perceive. The perception should be taken into consideration from the higher authority or from the management of any kind of organization. Okay, how people perceive, how the employee perceive, how the individuals perceive in that particular workplace. Okay, that contributes to the well-being of the organization. Okay. Now, meaning and concept of perception. Okay, so we have already discussed what do we mean in a general way. So now, what exactly, what is the concept of perception? What exactly do you mean by perception? Okay, so interpretation of information. Okay, see, when we are working in a workplace, in a certain atmosphere, in a certain kind of situation, in any organizational setting, so what happens is that there is a lot of information. Okay, information starts coming into and we grasp a lot of information. Now it's up to us how we are going to manage those information, how we are going to interpret those information. Are we going to interpret that information in a much better way, or we are going to interpret the information in a better, in a negative way? So that depends on the perception. Okay, like sometimes the information may not be positive or it may not be negative. Okay. For a particular individual, that may be a positive information, or sometimes that may be a negative sort of information. But the way we perceive, that makes sense. How we are going to interpret those information. Okay, if we are giving a positive way to that information, we are interpreting the information in a positive way, then that becomes a positive information. If we are interpreting the information in a much negative way, then it becomes a negative information. So what happens normally is that how the individuals, they interpret the information based on their experiences, the way they experience their cultures, their belief patterns, okay, what we have, there are expectations from any kind of organization or any kind of situation, okay. So it is based on all the sensory stuff, okay, how we are going to sense those information, and then only we are going to interpret those information, okay. Next is subjectivity. What do you mean by subjectivity? Subjectivity means it is not relativity, it is subjective means it depends from person to person, it varies from person to person, it varies from individual to individual, okay. For the same situation, for the same background, for the same environment, two persons can have different kind of views, okay. So they can perceive those situation in a much different way, in a different perspective, okay. So that is subjectivity. So perception is subjective, okay. Next is selective attention. Now what do you mean by selective attention? Selective attention means people tend to focus on certain aspects of their environment while ignoring others. This selective attention affects how we are going to interpret those information. So what happens is that there are a lot of issues are going on each and every day, okay. There are a lot of information coming up to us, there are a lot of situations are going on, okay. Now what happens is that there are different kinds of individual, so they're very selective, okay. They give much more importance to a particular situation and they ignore a different situation, okay. So that becomes selective, okay. See, while having a perception of an overall scenario, if you are perceiving an overall scenario, you cannot be selective, but that does happen, okay. That most of the employees or most of the individuals, they are selective, okay. So selective attention, they pay attention to a selective situation and they ignore the other, okay. So that also contributes to their perception, okay, in a different way. Now factors influencing perception, particularly in the Indian organizational context. If you are talking about the Indian organizational context, what are the factors which normally influences our perception, okay. We'll be going through a few factors. Now number one is culture, okay. You see, culture is very important in our Indian society, okay. The Indian organizational culture is deeply influenced by cultural values such as collectivism, hierarchy and respect for authority. So these cultural norms shape how individuals perceive their role, relationship and interactions within the organizations. India is a culturally diverse nation with numerous languages. See, you see, if you're talking about the from the Indian perspective, you see India is a culturally diverse nation, okay. We have number of languages, we have number of religions, we have number of traditions, okay, and we are deeply influenced by these kind of cultural values and moral values, okay. So what happens, these cultural values shape the way we perceive something, okay. um, for example, I will say in some part of India, uh, eating non-veg is a big no-no, okay. People, they don't eat, particularly the Jain people. In the Jain culture, if you see, people, they don't partake with meat products, even they don't take onion and garlic as well, okay. So it is the way they are being born and brought up, it is the way they have been culturally nourished, okay. Now we cannot say that that is a right perspective or that's a wrong perspective, okay. So the way they perceive the meat eaters or food relating to meat, that's their, they will definitely have a different kind of perception. But a person who is a regular meat eater, they will have a different kind of perception, okay. So it depends from person to person, okay. And culture has a very important role to play, the way we perceive something, okay, and that also shapes our perception. See, and different cultural backgrounds, okay, we are having different cultural backgrounds, which also lead to varying perspective, okay. Some may be a less important, some may be more important on hierarchy, okay, authority and teamwork, okay. What do you mean by hierarchy? The ranking in a organizational setting, okay, authority and various kinds of teamwork, okay. So different cultural backgrounds can also lead to various kinds of varying perspective, okay, that may not be same. Next is cultural values like collectivism versus individualism. Power distance and uncertainty avoidance can shape how individuals perceive their roles and interaction within the organization. You see, some people, some individuals, they practice collectivism, okay, and some collectivism in the sense they are much more um, um, comfortable in teamwork. They like to work in a team, okay, and some people they are individualism. They focus on individualism, okay. So the way whether you are following collectivism or whether you are following individualism, that also shapes your role. That shapes the perception of your role within an organization. Okay. So this is all about the culture, how culture um, shapes the way we perceive in an organization. Next is socio-economic background. Okay. So what do you mean by socio-economic background? In India, you will find a lot of people from different kinds of backgrounds, okay, different kinds of economic settings, different kinds of socio-economic settings, okay, um, such as the way they have been born and brought up, okay, their financial status, okay, their educational status, okay. So that influences the individual how they're going to perceive themselves and others in the workplace, okay. Not all of them comes from a similar kind of socio-economic background. So socio-economic background also plays a very important role in shaping the way we perceive something, okay. For example, individuals from privileged background may have different perception of power and authority compared to those from disadvantaged background. So for example, a person or an individual who is coming from a very privileged family or a privileged background, they may the way they will be perceiving something, that will be much different from a person who has come from a deprived background, from not from a privileged background, okay. So socio-economic background also plays a very important role in shaping our the way we perceive something, okay. Socio-economic status can also influence our access to various kinds of educational access, our resource access, and various kinds of opportunities available in the society, okay. So this background can shape individuals' perception of fairness, mediocrity, and their aspiration within the organization. See, sometimes what it does happen that within an organization there are a lot of different kinds of people from various kinds of social economic backgrounds working together. So they have a lot of aspirations, okay, different kinds of aspiration. A person who is coming from a very good socio-economic background, their aspirations within the organizations tend to have a different way, okay. Similarly, a person who is coming from a not that good socio-economic background, they tend to have a different kind of aspirations within the organization. So definitely that is going to be there's a difference. There's a difference between the people from different kinds of socio-economic background, and that the way they are going to um, perceive any kind of situation or any kind of issues. Okay. Disparities in socio-economic background may also lead to different interpretation of organizational policies and practices. See, though different individuals will have different kinds of opinion, different kinds of perception, okay, if they are coming from a different kinds of socio-economic background, but the organization or the institution, they are not going to have a different kinds of policies and practices. Definitely they are going to have a similar kind of practices and policies, okay, and each and everybody has to follow the same. But the way you are accepting those policies and practices within an organization, that may differ if we are coming from various kinds of different socio-economic backgrounds, okay. So that is also our perception, how we are perceiving the various kinds of organizational policies and practices within an organization, okay. Now, communication styles, okay. Again, we are a diverse country, okay, and our dialect, we speak a lot of languages, and the way we speak, the communication styles, it differ, okay, the dialect differ, okay. So what happens is that differences in communication styles can lead to misinterpretation and misunderstanding, affecting how individuals perceive each other's intention and behavior. You see, a person speaking English from the southern part of India and a person speaking English from the northern part of India is much, much, much different. Okay, there is a lot of difference the way they communicate. Similarly, a person speaking from the eastern part, particularly from the West Bengal, okay, and from the western part of India, definitely there is a difference in the communication styles. Okay, so what happens normally is that uh, sometimes there is misinterpretation and sometimes there is misunderstanding as well. Okay, due to communication styles. So communication is extremely important. Okay, to communicate in a much better way, and that through which we can minimize the negative perceptions within an organization. Again, India is has a very different kind of diverse array of communication styles. Okay, we have different kinds of regional languages. Okay, various kinds of socio-cultural factors are also involved. Our educational levels are not similar or not same. Okay, they differ from states to state. Okay, so these kinds of variations in communication styles, such as direct or indirect versus indirect communication, they impact how the message are being interpreted. Okay, the message or the information which we are passing on, okay, how they are being misinterpreted, that can lead to various kinds of misunderstanding and misinterpretation. Okay, so communication is very important. The way we communicate, the communication style is important. Next, stereotypes and prejudices. Now, what do you mean by stereotypes? What do you mean by stereotypes and prejudices? See, we as a society in India, we are being, uh, I mean, uh, stereotypes are there. Various kinds of stereotypes are involved. Various kinds of prejudices are involved by various kinds of caste. We still have caste issues in India. We still have religion issues. We have regional disparity. We have regional identity. Okay, we feel proud if we are from Orissa, we feel proud to be an Odia. Okay, a Bengali will feel proud to be a Bengali. Okay, but apart from this, you see, recently there was a tussle of war between Orissa and West Bengal. Okay, owing to Rasgulla, the sweet. Okay, so who is the inventor or of that particular sweet? Okay, so what happens is there are a lot of stereotype mentality and prejudices also, which give rise due to casteism, which give rise to various kinds of religion practices, okay, and regional identity as well. So this biasness, okay, this kind of biasness can influence how individuals perceive and interact with their colleague, leading to discrimination and conflict in the workplace. You see, within an organization, there are a lot of people from different kinds of background, from different kinds of region. Okay, so the regional factor plays a very important role. How we tend to be very comfortable. If we are from Orissa, we tend to be very comfortable interacting with Odia people. A Bengali will feel comfortable interacting with his or her Bengali colleagues. Okay, see, so and so forth. That gives that give rise to a biasness, okay, and that give rise to various kinds of discrimination and conflict in the workplace. Okay. So various kinds of stereotypes are there. These kinds of stereotypes should be taken away. That should be eradicated. Okay, if an organization wish to forge ahead. Okay. So the stereotypes are based on gender issues. Okay, stereotypes are based on caste issue. Okay, religion, various kinds of ethnicity. Okay, so these are the various kinds of factors which influences the stereotypes and the way the individual perceive themselves and others in the organization. Okay, So what happens if we are having these kinds of prejudices, this kinds of stereotype mentality? So what normally happens is that that affect the hiring decisions while giving promotion to a particular employee. Okay, work assessments. Okay, there may be various kinds of disparity. Okay, while giving the opportunity in opportunities and treatment. What happens? Let's say, for example, an HR. Okay, or the recruitment manager. Okay, he starts doing prejudices based on the gender, based on caste, based on religion, or their ethnicity. Okay, so they won't be able to give proper decision, they won't be able to make proper decision, informed decisions. Okay, but particularly in while hiring somebody. Okay, they may not give the proper the job may not be given to the proper right person. Okay, while also giving promotions or work assignments. Okay, there may be various kinds of disparity, opportunities may not be given proper. Okay, so these normal happen. So these are stereotypes. Okay, um, a person from a different, from a state, from Oriya people, they will, if a person who is from Orissa, he may tend, if there is certain kinds of prejudices, the decision may become faulty. Okay, and that person may not choose the right person. Okay. So that's the problem. I mean, stereotypes problems and prejudices problem. The way we perceive, that may be very dangerous for any kind of organization. Okay. Now, organizational structure and policies. What do you mean by organizational structure and policies? See, every organization has got various kinds of structure. They have got their own structure. Okay, they have got their own policies. Okay. If, unlike if that is not a government organization where the policies and structures are same, and if that is a private organization, then their organizational structure and their policies are different. Okay. So what happens is that the individuals or the staffs who work in such kind of organization, they perceive their role, responsibilities, and opportunities for advancement based on the policies and structure. Okay. Let's say, for example, an organization which has a very good organizational structure, very good policy. Okay, what happens is that the people, the individuals, the staff who are working for that particular organization, they perceive their role, they perceive their responsibility, they understand that there is opportunity for their advancement based on the organizational structure and policies of that particular organization. But if there is no organizational structure, or the organizational structure is faulty, if there is faulty policies, there's no better policies in an organization. So what happens is that the individuals, they do not perceive their role in a much better way. They don't perceive their responsibility, they don't perceive their opportunities for their advancement, and that hampers the organizational growth in the future. Okay. So for instance, a hierarchical organization may foster perception of power distance, while a flat organization may promote perception of equality and collaboration. So if there is a hierarchy, if there is a hierarchy in an organization, what happens is that they foster a power distance. Okay, power distance is very harmful for any kind of organization. Okay, if there is any power distance, so that affects the organizational growth in the long run. While if there is a flat organizations, for example, what happens in a flat organization, that may promote perception of equality. So there is a sort of equality, sense of equality and collaboration within the employee and the organization. Okay, so in case of a flat organization, what happens is that organizations tend to grow much better way, rather than the organizations which has a hierarchical way of organizational structure. Okay, so this structure, there are various kinds of structures and policies of an organization shape perception of fairness, autonomy, and opportunities for advancement for any kind of individual. The individuals who are working in that particular organization, what is the structure of that organization, what is the structure of that the policies of an organization, that shape the perception. Okay, they may have a better perception, they may have a positive perception, or they may have a negative perception. They may feel that yes, in this particular organization there is a opportunity for our advancement, there's an opportunity for our growth, okay, there is autonomy, okay, there is fairness in the decision making process, then they have a different, a positive sort of perception. Whereas if they don't, they perceive that there is a very less chances of opportunities for their advancement, there is no autonomy, there is no fairness, then they will perceive that organization in a much negative way. Okay. So hierarchical structure may reinforce power dynamics while flat structure may promote collaboration and innovation. So similarly, you see there are a lot of organizations where there is hierarchical structure. Okay. So what happens is that they reinforce power dynamics. The power dynamics comes into play. Okay. They, like, everybody thinks themselves to the boss, and that hinders the growth of the organization. While in case of a flat structure, okay, that promotes collaboration and various kinds of innovations. Okay, like for example, I'll give you one example. In any kind of organization, a very much lower employee, okay, an employee from the lower background, okay, um, or from a lower grade, okay, he or she has a very innovative idea, but due to hierarchical structure, that may not be taken care of. They may not give that importance as because there is a hierarchical structure. But if there is a flat organization, okay, in the flat structure, what happens is that definitely he or she will be given a chance to collaborate and innovate. Okay, so that is good for the organization in the long run. Now, leadership style. Leadership style is also very important. See, in some organization you will find authoritarian leadership. Some organization you will find participative leadership style. Okay, so it varies from organization to organization. What happens in an authoritarian leadership? Definitely authoritarian in the sense, whatever the top leaders decide or think, that is full and final. There is no room for discussion. That may be a good decision, or that may be a faulty decision. But as because the higher management has taken the decision, then that is fair enough, that is good. But in case of participative, leadership, what happens is that everybody has got a chance to participate. Everybody get a chance to speak out, give their views on that particular issue, okay, or on that particular decision. So definitely a much better decision can be taken if there is a participating approach style or leadership style in any kind of organization. Okay. The leadership style adopted by managers can shape employees' perception of the leader, colleague, and the work environment. Definitely, that is absolutely true. That the leadership style which has been exhibited by the managers of any organization, that is going to shape the employees or the staffs, that what they are visualizing, what they are perceiving of their leaders, of their managers, and subsequently their colleagues, and that will be inhabited. If there is a you see there is an authoritarian leadership on in the high level, definitely that is going to come down, and you are going to show that authoritarian style to your subordinates, to your colleagues. Okay. So that becomes the entire system becomes authoritarian. Okay, not only the higher management, but also it becomes authoritarian in the entire organization, which is very harmful for the organization in the long run. Okay. Next. But leadership styles, as we have said, that can be authoritarian, that can be democratic, that can be autocratic. Various kinds of leadership styles can be seen in various kinds of organizations, in the Indian organizations. Okay. So what happens is that the leadership approach adopted can influence employee perception of trust, empowerment, and job satisfaction. See, there are very few organizations, okay, who they give a damn care about what the employee perception is about trust, about empowerment, and about job satisfaction in an organization. Okay, but there are organizations, they give a very extremely importance, high importance, and top priority what employees perception is regarding to their trust in that organization, regarding to their empowerment in that organization, regarding to various kinds of job satisfaction in that organization. You see, there are organizations which give, once you have been hired for that particular organization, you have been given share I've seen companies, I've seen organizations where the freshers, they have been given shares in that company. Why do they give share? Normally, when you are a shareholder of that particular organization or particular company, when you work for that organization for a few numbers of years, a good number of years. But for a fresher, that's quite surprising. But still, to gain the trust, to have empowerment opportunities for that particular employee, and to give a job satisfaction to that employee, the leadership, they give shares, that you are a shareholder in this company and you are equally responsible for the growth of the company. Okay? That gives a sense of trust within the employee. So that can be termed as a positive perception. Okay. Now, concluding. Okay. So we have gone through various kinds of factors in perception and why perception is important in any kind of organizational setting. You say without perception you can do nothing. There has to be good perception, and moreover, you cannot. It's not mechanical. Perception cannot be mechanical. As somebody perceives, okay, you can make them perceive, not in a mechanical way. Okay, so the factors, understanding these factors is crucial for promoting a positive organizational culture, fostering inclusion and mitigating biases that may hinder individual and organizational performance. So if you are going to understand these factors, the factors which we have gone through, it is very, very important. It is very, very crucial to promote a positive organizational culture, which can foster inclusion. What do you mean by inclusion? An all-inclusive culture. Everybody are included. There is no exclusion, all inclusion. Okay, and mitigating biases. You can minimize the biases that may hinder an individual along with an organizational performance. Okay. If the individual's performance is hindered, definitely the organizational performance is also hindered. Okay. Next, organizations that recognize and address these influences can create environment where all employees feel valued, respected, and motivated to contribute their best. You will love to work in such a kind of organization where you will feel loved, where you will feel motivated, where you will feel respected, okay, and you feel valued. Definitely you are going to contribute your best, okay, to that particular organization. So your perception changes. Okay, so what you perceive, that the organization should be very much critical to understand those kind of perception of an employee. Okay, then only the organizations will be able to grow in the or outpace other organizations in the long run. Okay. So we have come to the end of the slide. I believe if you have any kind of doubts, you can just jot down your doubts in the comment section, and I will be much more happy to clear off your doubts. And thank you very much for your time. Thanks.